and Scrutiny Committee, which is open to the press and public. We'd welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you wish to speak. Please remember to keep your microphones muted when you're not talking. Apologies. Chris, can we have who's apologised and anybody else who's got anything to know about?
Certainly, Chair. We've had apologies from councillors Liam Cowles, Giles Davis, Stephen Evans, Norma Parish, Caroline Price, Nicola Simons, Alan Slade, David Williams, Lucy Williams and Councillor Nathan Yole.
So we've got quite a few people missing today. So how many people have we got on the call today?
I think we've got 10 members.
10 members, so we're a core 8 and 1 member in the chamber. So we could do some work today to get good scrutiny, if we would. Session number 2, declarations of interest. Rebecca, can you please talk us through that? Declaration of interest.
Thank you, Chair. Members, I don't anticipate that any of you will have declarations in relation to this subject under scrutiny today, but if you do think of anything during discussions, please just raise your hand and we'll bring you in to declare those. Thank you.
Thank you there, Rebecca. And turn mine off now as well. Can I first welcome all the officers in attendance and the executive member, Peter Jones. We won't go around anyone at this point, but if you speak in response to a question, could you please introduce yourself to members at that point and what you do? Members, as you're aware, we're here today to discuss the Council's strategic, I guess a mouthful for me today, Strategic Equality Plan Annual Report. Shall I say that again? Strategic Equality Plan Annual Report. It's a lot of work gone into this, if you're reading it. Can I firstly welcome and hand over to Councillor Jones, who I just introduced, the Executive Member for Corporate Governance and Performance, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are scrutinising, as the Chair has said, the Strategic Equality Plan's annual report. This will be the first time that the annual report is brought to Scrutiny Committee. The statutory duty is for the report to receive full sign-off at full council. However, it's felt that to ensure it receives a deeper level of scrutiny, it would be beneficial for the report to be discussed here prior to full council on 25th of October. This is the second annual report within the lifespan of the current Strategic Equality Plan, which runs from 2020 until 2024. The annual report covers activity that was completed against the objectives and actions from the 1st of April 2021 until the 31st of March 2022. Although the report is written and published by colleagues within the Policy and Partnership team, it is a collection of work that has been completed by officers from across the organisation, and I know a lot of work has gone in by all the officers on this. For the objectives and actions to be completed, it requires a joint commitment and effort from all our service areas. It is our role today to scrutinise the activity that has been completed in the reporting period. There are officers present, and there are many of them, I'm very grateful for them to be here today, that represent the various service areas who will be able to answer specific questions. I will now hand over to Stephen Honeywell, who will provide a brief overview of the report before we move to questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. If you'd like to kick off.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Jones. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all, really, for allowing us to bring this to scrutiny today. This is the second annual report in the lifespan of the current Strategic Equality Plan, which was published in 2020, just as the COVID pandemic sort of hit. The annual report covers progress for the second year of that report, so from the 1st of April 2021 until 31st of March 2022. During this time period, we were still dealing with COVID-19 limitations, but despite this, very good progress has been made in various objective areas, some of the highlights of which are the agreement to and creation of mandatory equalities training for all members of staff across the organisation. We have supported 430 vulnerable young people to reduce their risk of becoming NEET through our various support programmes. We have drafted and consulted on place plans for Pontypool and Blenavon, which will shape an application for over £20 million in funding from the UK Government Levelling Up Fund to create new leisure, hospitality and cultural spaces in our town centre. You may not necessarily sense an immediate link to the equalities agenda there, but the project is really indicative of a culture that we're trying to achieve here in the council, where staff are considerate of the needs of everyone in the community. So we'll be using this opportunity to increase accessible toilet availability and improve routes for disabled people with mobility issues. In addition, other highlights include our integrated community wellbeing hub, Tŷ Dorlan, which opened to guests in January 2022. As part of the Corporate Parenting Board responsibilities, a What Matters survey was developed to capture young people leaving care's views on things that matter to them. The survey was developed by the young people who sit on the Corporate Parenting Board, and the findings of the survey will influence service delivery and change and will be part of the Corporate Parenting Board development plan for 2022-2023. We have helped a further 200 residents to find meaningful employment or move forwards in their careers. The Financial Inclusion Service commenced support with 70 new clients and raised or saved their clients almost £93,000 through income maximisation, grant applications and other support to reduce or clear debts. We continue to support our dementia-friendly communities across Gwent with online dementia awareness workshops and sessions throughout 2021-2022. We have supported the Homes for Ukraine scheme, which was launched on the 14th of March in the time period, and this scheme allows individuals, charities, community groups and businesses in the UK to bring Ukrainians to safety, including those with no family ties to the UK. We've continued to promote understanding and celebrate diversity through various communications campaigns and training opportunities. Those are some of the highlights. There are some areas that we have not made progress against yet, but these will be areas of focus for the next 2 years. I would just like to reiterate Councillor Peter Jones's point that the report is collated by the Policy and Partnerships team in the PSSU, but is a reflection of the work completed by officers across the organisation and very much a reflection of Torvine's commitment to equality. As such, I will largely be directing your questions today to the appropriate officers here, either virtually or in person. And I hope you find the report and session useful in terms of your awareness of all the efforts being made. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. I'm not going to ask Lyndon Paddy because it says he doesn't need asking anything at the moment, but if you need to go through, then please do. Sorry, Lyndon, I put you on the spot there. I proposed we do this in one room due to the challenges around hybrid meetings. It says it's on my list here. And hopefully we'll get 4 members plenty of opportunity to ask all the questions they need to ask. I propose, in order to put a degree of structure around the meeting, we will spend approximately, it is very similar to the last scrutiny we did, 15 minutes in general questions on the process for delivering the equality plan. And if you look at your plan, you've got, look at the indexes, so equality duty, equality objectives, the process, it's that bit. And then the next 60 minutes will be the 5, I think it's 5 objectives. That's right, isn't it, guys? I'm asking people down here whether that's about right. Yeah, so that's good. And so we start with 15 minutes around the process. Please do not delve into the other bits. So if you're raring to go, you've given us a good read, look at what we mean by the equality duty and the equality objectives in our process. Who's going to be the first one here? I can see you. I've got a screen now. Anybody raring to go? Sorry. So if you've not got anything on that, we can trawl through the objectives and then get the process done. If you're uncomfortable with that way of doing it, we can certainly go and look at each objective. It might be an easier way for this particular scrutiny. Anybody? I'm not hearing anybody wanting to go for the process. Unfortunately, some of our process-driven question answers are away at the moment. I think a couple of. So I think what I'll do, because it might be easier, is to devote most of it to objectives. So we'll go to objective 1. And I'm pretty certain that some of you have got pretty good questions on that one. Objective 1 is progress towards objectives. Kilvine County Borough Council is an equal opportunities employer. The workforce is aware and understands the importance of equality and diversity. I've got that right, haven't I? That's the bit. So start your questions on that whole section there. And do you want to fire off then? Be quiet. Any questions? Are you happy with it? Seems good yet, man. Shall we just quickly go through here and see what it says? Objective 1, action A. What progress has been made for this action? Develop a suite of training on equality and diversity topics. I don't intend to go through all of it, just that heading. Anybody got any questions, any observations on that one? Not seeing anything. Action B. Oh, right. Councillors, I've got Councillor Seaborn here. And Colette Thomas. Which you want to go first?
Colette, you can go first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just a question on the training, actually, for members.
Oh.
Red Shiny Apple training. I just wondered, do we know when that's going to be rolled out, please?
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. That training will be rolled out fairly soon. It's a training course that was taken by leadership. Obviously, because of the council elections taking place in May, there was a slight delay in obviously letting everybody settle into their counselling roles. But we're ready to sort of pick that up, fairly soon, and we'll have the conversations with colleagues to ensure you're notified of that in due course.
Okay, thank you.
Rose?
Yeah, my question was of a similar vein, really. I picked up last week in what is expected of members to be statutory, which they're obligated to take, and which ones are optional. Elected members get an email through, just like the staff, to actually perform training sessions. And my point is that we're not aware of what is staff and what is for elected members. So if that could be identified in the training sessions, that would be really useful.
Okay, any more on that? Or what I'm going to have to do, by the sound of it, is go through each of these points. I think I was going to... Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Seaborn. A good point that you make. We'll make sure that the messaging in future indicates the appropriateness of the training that we're publicising.
Is that okay, Rose?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, David.
Councillor Horler.
Yes, Chair. I just want to echo what Councillor Seaborn said. I've been, as a new member, it's been very confusing on what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing, and I still really don't know what I should have done and what I have done. If that's the case, then I would welcome any more support that we could be given in the correct manner of what training we need to be doing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for that, Councillor Horner. Just to reiterate what my colleague Jason Lewis just said, really, we'll pick that up going forward in terms of the general communications that go out to all members.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go on to object. Anybody else? No, right. Okay, action B. Anybody got any burning questions on that? Staff induction process, short values, detail in the way we work beyond including fair behaviour, is embedded in supervision and annual work appraisals. Okay, I'm just going to have to go through this point by point, unfortunately. And then objective action C, explore the best practice in recruitment process and conduct a review to ensure that we are recruiting as fairly as possible. I'm sure there's some questions on that one. Anybody? Nothing? Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to skip one of these. Advice. Action E is promote Welsh Government's vision and principles of the gender equality review to strive for the equal sharing of power, resources and influence for all women, men and non-binary people. I'm sure there's some comments on that one. Okay, next one. Action F, gender pay gap, progress, gender equality and pay within the workforce. I'll ask a question there. Where have we got with that one? Simple question. About the gender pay gap. How will we simple? What progress has been made in 21-22? Bearing in mind that we were coming out of the COVID at the time. He says no progress.
Yeah,
but what does that mean?
I think it means, Chair, exactly what you suggested.
Okay.
In terms of it is something we need to look closely at. We've had a number of priorities going through COVID to respond to, and we continue to have a number of priorities. So it's one for us to look at, as is indicated in the strategy for this coming year.
Okay, thank you. Right, next one, Action G, which is what?
Chair.
Yeah.
Chair, I have my hand up. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but it's Councillor Rose Seaborn here. I'll see if I can get my camera back on. Yeah, there we go. I was just wondering what we could find out about how much take-up there is in training. Is there gaps within our organisation that don't pick up on the training? And if so, what kind of ratio is the training sessions compared to the number of staff we have? And also, I'd like to pick up on the complaints. Are there any complaints regarding equality within the council that, you know, seem to be repeating themselves? Thank you.
In terms of the training, are we talking about training generally, Councillor Seaborn, or training specific to equality? Training specific to equality. Okay. I don't have the figures in front of me, but it's a bit of analysis that we can do, I'm sure, to identify the take-up of the training and the profile of those that are undertaking the training. The other question, sorry, can you repeat it?
The other question was about complaints on equality. What kind of complaints are we receiving from staff or from members of the public even on equality? And if so, are there any trends or patterns in that?
Again, off the top of my head, I'm not aware of any overt complaints about that are equality related that we receive from staff. They're typically dealt with through internal policy procedures. So they don't appear as complaints, but they may be dealt with through a grievance process or ultimately potentially a disciplinary process. But in terms of the detail of complaints that are specifically relating to matters relating to equality, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But again, it's something we can perhaps have a look at and feedback to you on.
Thank you very much.
Apologies, I've got my head of HR in ether with you all, and she's feeding through to me on Teams, and we haven't had any she's confirmed to me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to add to that, really, that the council didn't receive any complaints from the public during this period, so there were nothing logged at that. So we can just confirm that there weren't any of equality's nature There were, however, 3 in relation to Welsh language, which have been documented in the report, but just wanted to confirm that. Thanks.
Right, everybody finished on this? I'm going to go on to the next item, which was action G, implement the mental health strategy. Obviously, yesterday was World Mental Health. I think it was yesterday, the day before was, and some things in a lot of people's minds, so there should be some questions on this one. We've got a lot of staff. Anybody got any questions on that one? I'm going to ask a question on that because obviously we've had COVID, and what do you do to monitor that is the obvious question. Bear in mind what I saw people asking, you know, how do you monitor people? Bear in mind that a lot of people have been working from home in the last few years. How do you deal with any problems that might arise? Worth asking that question. Who's going to answer that one? Jason?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess a couple of things. It's been a prominent issue throughout the pandemic period, with, as you point out, people working from home, potentially feeling a bit isolated, particularly from their colleagues, and we've been very, very aware of that. And I think we've done a fair amount to try and make sure that people are aware of opportunities that can help them with managing their well-being. We have a regular, every Thursday, a bulletin that goes out with a variety of opportunities for people to engage in particular activities and particular information on managing well-being. That happens regularly. We have a counselling service. We have an occupational health service, and we have you know, that is well subscribed to as well. So I think we can always do more. Obviously, there's training that's been rolled out now for staff on managing their well-being and their mental health, and we'll continue to make sure that it has prominence.
Anybody else want to add on that one? Okay. H, we're up to action H, which is develop and implement the workforce strategy. Action H. Pardon? No, nobody. Right. So we then get to workers. What progress has been made for this action? Objective 1, action 1. Now we're on to actions. Action I, sorry. I can't realise. Promote awareness.
Chair, sorry to interrupt. Could you say the page that you're on, which I'm having difficulty following you in the paper?
Going from page 16 to page 17 on the online copy. I presume you've got the same. Page 10, sorry, on that online copy. It's page 16 on the, I see what you mean, the actual copy, the pack is 10. You're the same? Page 16, yeah. So going on page 17, top of, and sorry, it's objective I was misreading it. Promote awareness campaigns, listen to protected characteristics. That's looking at COVID and various other things. And LGBTQ, and what we've got, hate crime, Black History Month, Pride, Gypsy Roma, Travel History Month, Windrush Day and Ramadan. I've got no questions again. Then we go on to, there's a whole lot of stuff under that one. Let's get up to, pardon? Oh, J and K, sorry. And objective 1, K is develop and implement disability confident action plan. What progress has been made? No questions? Okay. So objective 2, which is ensure that people and communities have their rights respected and feel safe from violence and abuse. And objective 2, action 1, is increase awareness of individual rights. And there's a whole lot of stuff under this if you read it. It's about advocacy and information advice, sort of COVID as well, and looking at public, it's mainly about information and advocacy. And anybody got any questions on that one? We're quiet today. Pardon? No questions as far as I can see.
Hang on.
Oh.
It's me. Sorry, I can't find my hands up.
So it's Nick.
You talk about goals for 2023 or any other goals that we have within this information. How do you actually find out what the results are within what you've done? How do you monitor the achievements? Is that something I should be asking? You know, if you're doing a goal, you've set a goal, how do you actually prove that you've actually proved the goal and you've actually scored it?
I think, Councillor, in terms of how we achieve the goals, again, so when we work with any individual, obviously we carry out an assessment of need right at the start. So the goals for that individual and the goals overall will be based upon what our initial determination of their level of need is. And we obviously evaluate that on an individual basis at the end. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yeah, the goal that you've achieved with that person, but do you obviously recognise all the goals that you've achieved to be able to get a final score? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
My English isn't very good at the moment. So you've achieved a lot of goals with a lot of clients and a lot of residents and whatever you've done with them, but at the bottom line, once you've got all those goals together, does that give you a big programme of achievements that you've actually achieved?
Yes, Councillor, it does, and obviously then what that will do, that will fall into our service planning going forward, so that'll determine any, I guess any changes in service direction that we may need as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Anybody else?
Yes, please.
Rose, sorry, yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question on our schools. Obviously, they're playing catch up with regard to COVID, and I just wondered how they're coping with the new plans. There's a new curriculum. There's a new RSE part of the curriculum. I've had a conversation with somebody who wanted to speak to the schools, and I just wondered how they're managing within their school development plans to incorporate all the new things coming out from Welsh Government.
Shall I come in there, Chair?
Question. John, did you want to respond on that?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't hear a response. Yes, thanks for the question, Councillor Seaborn. Two bits to it really. In terms of the new curriculum for Wales, obviously that's just started its rollout, so there's quite a lot of alignment going on in schools to make sure that they're embedding that properly. But it's a long process to complete. It's over many years, and it rolls through the sort of curriculum age. So that work is in an early phase and ongoing. The RSE one is an interesting one. There's obviously been quite a lot about that in the media over the last weeks and months. The schools have been advised on what they clearly have to do, and particularly the information that they need to share with parents and children and young people. There is a judicial review outstanding on the RSE curriculum, which I think is planned for November. So obviously we've got to await the outcome of that. But for the time being, schools are just getting on and delivering what they are obliged by law to deliver in terms of RSE. And that'll continue until they're told otherwise. But I think it's fair to just say and to emphasise this issue about understanding. That there are stories in the media that I would say are not always accurate or complete. And schools have got quite a job over sort of this coming year, I would say in particular, just to make sure that accurate information is provided to people. What they make of that information is up to them, but schools have got a job to provide it, and so we're trying to support them in doing that. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I just wanted to question on the equality of some schools. I understand are delivering it well and consulting with their parents in a good way, but there's some schools that are lacking, and parents are having to go to other routes to find out that information. I just wondered how all schools are dealing with it really, and how are they having support to deliver this?
They're having support in the sense that they're being advised what it is they ought to be doing, and what information they should make available. In terms of making information available, it isn't expected that it's all in place at this point in time. It's something that will develop over the years, so curriculum is not all fully designed out and shareable with parents. That's something that they're not expected to have in place straight away. So yes, they are perhaps at different stages at the moment, and probably will be for a number of months. But I don't think that's unexpected or necessarily a bad thing. And in terms of will they all arrive at the right place, at some point in the future? Yes, they will, because this is a legal requirement, and they will be tested on it. Not least in terms of inspections, which may happen.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rose. Right. Anybody else? No. John, thank you. Objective 2, Action B, provide support to schools to embed fairness and equality in their school plans and policies. Any questions on that? Nope. Right. So Objective 2, Action C, ensure that all Torvine schools have clear strategy for improving the quality of teaching and learning, particularly in secondary schools, to reduce within school variation so that all pupils, including boys and vulnerable learners, make appropriate progress over time. It's a great long thing here. Look at that as well. Bullet points. Anybody got any burning issues on that one? No questions? Right, next. Objective 2, Action D. Improve reporting of identity-based abuse, bullying and harassment in schools, and take appropriate action as necessary. There's quite a lot here as well. Any questions, observations? Nope. Objective 2, Action E. Monitor the levels of hate incidents, crime in Torvine via the Community Safety Hub. Implement any necessary actions. No questions. Objective 2, Action F. Provide staff training that raises awareness of equalities and Welsh language issues, empowering staff to identify and tackle discrimination and stereotyping. No questions. Objective 2, Action G. Work with local and regional partners on existing violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence issues to identify and tackle incidents. This includes domestic abuse and sexual violence against men. questions? Objective 2, Action H. Work with partners to prevent and raise awareness of violent extremism. Okay, that's one we had a scrutiny on, if I remember rightly. Objective 2, Action I. I'm going to get caught out by this one again. Advocate community diversity. And there's a large section here on diversity. No questions? Right, okay, next bit. Objective 2, Action J. Monitor community tensions. No questions. Objective 2, Action K. Engage with EU nationals with regard to the EU settlement scheme. Nothing, apparently. Objective 2, Action L. Continue the LA's engagement, local authorities' engagement with the UK refugee resettlement scheme. Okay, no observations. And there's quite a lot in this one, as you would expect. And I seem quite content with it. Pardon? Colette?
Yeah, can I just ask, Chair, have all the individuals been appropriately housed now, please?
Hi there, my name's Chris Hunt. I'm the Regional Community Cohesion Coordinator. Councillor, are you referring to any one scheme in particular? Oh, you're on mute, I'm afraid, Councillor. You're on mute.
Sorry, it's just a general question, you know, all these sort of vulnerable people, are they all been housed?
Yes, so the local authority is participating in a number of different resettlement schemes. Those that are detailed in the section there outline in further detail which schemes that we're engaged with. And though it's a voluntary programme, largely, and all those that are welcomed into our local authority are appropriately accommodated. There's a slight caveat to that with regards to the Homes for Ukraine scheme. The Homes for Ukraine scheme differs somewhat to other resettlement schemes that we are engaging with. And as you'll know, those arrivals that have arrived via the Homes for Ukraine scheme are principally and initially accommodated in host accommodation. So individuals, members of our community who have voluntarily offered up to host and accommodate those families. And yes, to answer your question in a very short way, they are appropriately housed, albeit the nature of the offer of accommodation is very temporary. And because of this, there are some concerns with regards to future, more medium to long-term accommodation for those individuals. This isn't a unique experience by us. It's also felt across all local authority areas, and we are supporting those families to explore more longer-term options at this time.
Can I just ask, are we having full cooperation from our social landlords in Torfaen?
Yes, we are. Yes, they have worked with us, and our links with RSL and social landlords are very strong. And with regards to previous resettlements from Syria, Iraq, Sudan and Afghanistan, we have worked with all of our RSL partners to have a very successful resettlement for those families.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Siobhan?
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, with the increase in in activity in the Ukrainian cities, are we expecting any more refugees to come over our way so that we're able to accommodate? Because they have increased the violence from Russia, and I just wondered whether or not we have had our contingent of Ukrainian refugees, or are we still receiving them, and do we expect any more?
So we are still receiving, as all local authorities are, new arrivals from Ukraine, and the increased activity more recently, we can expect to see more on a national level, more arrivals. There are two prongs to the Homes for Ukraine scheme. One, the individual route. So an individual community member can, like I said, host a family and sponsor their visa. And two, the Welsh Government Super Sponsor scheme, which effectively means the Welsh Government will be the sponsor on that applicant's visa. Now, the Super Sponsor scheme for Welsh Government has closed. It remained open a little longer in Scotland. And because of the increased activity in Ukraine over the last few days, they have seen a slight uptick in the number of applicants. But I should say with the individual sponsor route, there is no close date at this point in time. So whilst we've seen a definite drop-off of applicants in our area, this might continue for some time.
And a follow-up on that, are we able to cope with extra?
I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer. I think one of the pinch points is there's definitely a longer medium to long-term accommodation. The offer to host is for an initial 6 months, and largely our cohort of hosts have indicated they would wish to continue with that arrangement. But accommodation across the board is in high demand and short supply, which is definitely a concern for not just us, but UK, Welsh Government and all local authorities.
Lyndon?
Thank you.
Councillor Seaborn, just to come back on a few points there in terms of the national scheme. Each local authority has a single point of contact. It's me and Torvine for the conversations with Welsh Government over the Ukrainian schemes. We are, as Chris mentioned, expecting a rise in applications here. What we're doing back locally, though, to try to look at mitigation in terms of both longer-term accommodation and move-on, the actual move-on is trying to work with the private sector to do that, and we're looking at the various programmes that we've got available within the grant allocation that Welsh Government and UK Government has given us to look at those potential options. But the pinch point will be the availability of housing as we go forward. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lyndon.
Any more on that one? Thank you for that. Next item is Objective 2, Action M. Janet Jones? Sorry, I didn't bring you in there, Janet. You're on there. I think there's a slight lag on my screen.
Sorry, Chair, I wanted to come on the previous ones about accommodation. Bearing in mind that if we are working with private sector, quite a lot of the private sector landlords are now selling their properties because of the difficulties they're encountering with tenants. So that really is going to be another concern for us in finding accommodation long term for our refugee families, isn't it?
Yes, Councillor. Sorry, Lyndon, go ahead.
You've nearly had a two-pronged attack then, Councillor Jones, in terms of a response.
But, sorry.
As you highlight, my colleagues in housing, Chris and others, we are in a competing market in terms of the availability of housing, and I would say suitable housing, and a caveat to that is affordable housing as well, because they all come together in one go. So we are considering what options are available and open to us to try to access some more of that market that potentially we are losing through various other sources, because the housing market is so hot at the moment in terms of both rented accommodation and the cost of rents, the availability of that, and the availability of being able to purchase a house now is somewhat difficult for some families in terms of the affordability of that. So in terms of giving members some reassurance around this, we are working with our colleagues in housing, our RSL partners, to look at what available options we have in terms of both temporary and move-on accommodation.
Thank you, Lyndon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Useful set of questions there. Objective 2, Action M, undertake a gypsy and traveller accommodation assessment. Any questions there, please? No,
Yes, Chair. Before I put my hand up, that's Councillor Seaborn again.
Oh, no, come on,
I
Rose.
just wondered, we had a good relationship with the Gypsy Traveller settlement a couple of years ago. Is that relationship still as good as it was? And they did undertake an accommodation assessment at that time, I believe, and did all the recommendations go forward with the Gypsy and Traveller settlement.
Who wants that one? I'm looking at Adrian. Do you want that? You've been sat there patiently.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we had to do a Gypsy Traveller accommodation assessment. I think it's about every 4 years, and then we're legally required as part of our equalities duties for housing to deal with it if there's any shortage of supply. And turning to that, we did the first phase of the Lower Shepherd's Hill Gypsy site. If you know the site, it's got planning permission for 31 pitches, 10 have been built, and obviously the other 21 can come on stream as demand requires us to carry out and do the next 2 phases. The other part of that recommendation was to allocate a private Rose Cottage Gypsy Traveller site in the locality. It's sort of at the other end of that area at Cymysicoi. And we're currently working with the landowner there to try and get that site through its planning permission. Now, turning to the latest study, that basically says we're short about 7 units, taking account what's got permission, and that Rose Cottage site, which is 10 units, should obviously make up the 7. So the recommendations previously were incorporated into the local development plan, and if we get that permission at Rose Cottage, the sort of the numbers are there. If it doesn't get permission in time, we'll have to reallocate it in the plan going forward, or recommend reallocation, sorry.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more on that one? Okay, so we're going to, getting back to it now at the moment, going on to Objective 3, I've been advised that it would be a good idea just to do Objective 3 in one foul swoop, because there's a lot in there, though it's somewhat similar. So, work to eliminate the disadvantages and barriers that make it hard for people to access the same opportunities as everyone else. Hopefully you've all read this and you've got questions across the piece on it. Rather than me go through it bit by bit, I mean, it's a lot of stuff, built environment and prioritizations, improvements, that sort of thing, and accessibility, renovation and repair programs. So if you've got questions around that, you think, Rose, come back, I thought you might do.
Yeah, just a question. Are all our schools DDA compliant now, with all their lessons and all their equipment, particularly their buildings?
Who wants that one? John?
Yes, I'll take that one, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Seaborn. The situation as far as DDA compliance is they are compliant for the needs of the children who attend. They are not all fully compliant, but they are compliant for the children who need to attend. So if we have a situation where a child needs to go to a school and modifications are required, we make those modifications, which is the legal requirement. Some of our buildings, as members will appreciate, are older than some of the others, and it would be very difficult to completely make them compliant for all eventualities. In fact, probably financially impossible to make them completely compliant for all eventualities, but we meet the legislative requirement by making adjustments as we need to.
Thank you, Chair. John. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to have a little bit of a punt at this one, because there's a lot of stuff about access to libraries and resources in our town centres. It all features around that stuff. Who's the one on this one? So there's a lot of stuff in here on this. And businesses, regeneration. So it's sort of general feature in this whole section on that stuff. Does anybody want to have a go at that? Say, what we're looking at? Dave Leach. Yeah, Dave, it's your area, isn't it? Yes, let you go on about that. Good.
Thank you, Chair. I'm hiding away in the corner here. From our perspective, very, very similar to the position in schools. Some of the buildings obviously are of a certain age, but as far as we do introduce additional measures to make sure that those buildings are accessible. That's included significant investment over the years in terms of libraries accessibility and accessibility improvements at the indoor market as part of the renovation there. Obviously, buildings beyond our ownership of the town centres, there's very little that we can do to compel those ourselves as a local authority in that position.
Well, that's it, is it, on that?
I'd like to come back in after Linda, please, Chair.
Sorry, I got Linda. Linda is, and then Rose. Sorry, I'm not hearing it correctly.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I was just wondering about the wider built environment. Some of our active travel routes have still got barriers on them, which have been put up to stop off-roaders and that type of thing. What the plans going forward to try and improve some of these barriers so that wheelchair users, mobility scooter users, and even people with double buggies with children can actually access some of these routes which are currently blocked?
Yeah, my question was along a similar vein, but it was with the drop curbs and how we're working with our partners to make our communities accessible.
I'll happily come back on that, on both of those points, really. We've been working very productively with Councillor Daniels and the Torrine Access Forum now since summer of 2020, looking at various kind of access issues. Just following up on that point on libraries, that's, those buildings mentioned are not ones that have been sort of flagged up as being concerns. There have been some conversations about access to the countryside and drop curbs, and it's been great to see that officers have responded to that really productively, with our active travel officer actually going out with people using mobility scooters and identifying locations where they feel that drop curbs need to be installed. There is budget available for some of that work as well, so that will be sort of taken forward. Really, benefiting a lot from people's lived experiences. I'd welcome you to get in touch if you've got particular sort of areas of concern around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I was requested a couple of months ago for a mapping process of where people could travel on drop curbs, so they could actually know which way was the best way to travel to their local shops or to their local bus stop or what have you. And do we have a mapping system of accessibility within our communities of where the drop curbs are? There's nothing worse. I've been in a mobility scooter. There's nothing worse than going halfway around the block and finding you can't get off the curb and you have to travel back to where you know there's a curb.
Can I suggest that the appropriate officer isn't actually available here today, but can we get back to you on that, please? Because I believe that process has taken place.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience.
The Chair would actually like to come in on that one as well, because last council term I managed to get 50 grand's worth of drop curbs around my ward area. I don't normally put that in, but because I was fairly clued in about the drop curve application process, and what I managed to do was get the town centre, the canal, the cycle paths and Pont Newydd, and I think that approach, which I managed to do with the active travel officers, was quite a good approach. And if you actually base what I did, and I managed to link up Cwmbran as well, it's a far more strategic approach than saying, oh, we need drop curves here, drop curves there. And it might be worth you having a conversation with me about how we did it and who I did it with, because at the end of the day, it meant that people with mobility scooters and bicycles and all the rest of it got linked in, because it saved a heck of a lot of money by linking up the cycleways and stuff like that. Because there are ways, you know, the canal and all the rest of it. We've done some work with greenways and blueways, and it did suggest to me that that was a way of saving some money. But Rose is totally right, because you get some bits of the street that have got access, and some other parts of the street, and somebody comes down with a mobility scooter and can't get to the other side because there's a massive great curb in the way. But linking up the town centre and village hubs and the rest of it is quite important, because it's ridiculous, some of it, and some of it's very ancient. I wonder what your comments are on that one. I wanted to comment on here because I looked at it. It's the various policies around various disabilities. You've got dementia and conditions. That was quite good. I just wonder how much more of that we're going to develop. I mean, the dementia-friendly thing's excellent. I just wonder any more of those we've got. What's the question, sorry? The dementia-friendly places. Are we doing more of that? Where was it? I noticed it just now. I was just flicking down there, to be quite honest. Where was it? Dementia. Objective 3S, sorry. There's one thing Mandy Owen was very keen on. Yes. And there's a whole lot of initiatives like that around the place that are really excellent. Multi-agency group with partners who are living with dementia, their carers, elected members from local authority, and Iron Bevan, independent sectors. Those sort of bringing people together when one condition that's obviously got problems seems to be a very good way of doing things. It's about intent rather than anything else. Look at that one. I need to say it because that seems an excellent idea. That seems to have been championed by a lot of people.
I can confirm that there is still quite a bit of work on this agenda ongoing. There was recently, a few weeks ago, there was the Dementia Friendly Gwent Conference that took place in the Christchurch Centre in Newport. Natasha, who's listed as a reporting officer there, is still very involved in those work streams. So, yeah, I don't have the details going forward, but certainly this details everything that went on in the reporting year. And there'll be more, certainly more in next year's report to report on that.
Okay, we'll go on to objective. Anybody? Sorry, Rose Seaborn again. Just noticed you.
Sorry, Chair, that's a legacy. Apologies.
You just about arm hand up, is it?
It was an old hand.
Yeah, thanks, Rose. Right, objective 4. We'll go back through that one again now. It says, involve people and communities in matters that are important to them and decisions that we make. And then objective 4, action A, is ensure that all consultations are communicated as widely as possible. Anybody got anything on that one? Okay. Objective 4, action B. Carry out a mapping exercise to make up of groups that share specific protected characteristics. And it's got EE, older people, LGBT people, etc. That seems a fairly good idea. So I'm just making a comment there, but objective, no comment on that one. Objective 4, action C, improve engagement with groups that share share engagement with groups that share a particular protective characteristics. Yeah. Protective characters, e.g. older people, LGBT, etc. Any comments? Objective action D, ensure that young people have the opportunity to have a say on issues that affect them. It says Article 12, United Nations. What's that? That's the United Nations Declaration. Any comments on that one? Objective for action E, encourages services working with children and young people to adopt the national participation standards for children and young people in Wales. No comment. Objective for action F, increase engagement of seldom heard young people in local authority partnership conversations to improve our understanding of their needs and values. Nothing. Objective 4, action G, develop the youth parliament for Torvine. Action H, implement the Children's Rights Impact Assessment Tool. Sorry. And action I, develop further opportunities for involvement in decision making. That's young people. There's a lot of work Reed's been doing there by the look of it. Pardon? Councillor Seaborn?
Thank you, Chair. I think this is so important about consulting with young people. My concern, and I brought it up under the county plan, I think, and the children's plan, about how we consult with young people and how that's fed right through so that it accommodates as many young people as possible. We tend to have a youth forum. I think it's changed its name to a Youth Alliance now. We've got our school councils. I'm concerned that it's not feeding back and feeding up, and how that is disseminated amongst all young people. Because after all, a council only represents a larger group, and how the larger group actually gets fed back that information is my concern.
Shall I take that one, Chair? It's Jess Gabriel from Education, but I'm the lead on participation.
Thanks.
With Rhiannon. So Rhiannon's unavailable to come today, I'm afraid. We've got quite a lot of activity going on. As you referenced, Councillor Seaborn, there's activities planned under the Children and Young People's Service Development Plan. We've also got some activities related to our post-inspection action plan from Estyn. And we're linking in, we've set up a series of meetings at every tier, really. So we've set up a series of meetings for the exec leads with portfolios for children and young people, and the lead officers, the decision makers. They've also been invited to a termly meeting. So they'll meet with the representatives from the Welsh Youth Parliament and the British Youth Council, and the chairs from the Youth Alliance, as it now is, and the Youth Forum still would have the option to come to that meeting as well. So the idea of that forum then for them is for officers and the leads from those organisations to share what they've been discussing and what the priorities are. Also an opportunity then to brief on what the latest surveys and the feedback from children and young people is saying. So that's the first stage, and those meetings will take place in November, March and June for the following year. And then we've got a programme, as we set out in the Torvine Youth Alliance, then a programme of how we start to improve and better engage the schools councils into that network of information as well, as to ensure that's shared regularly with all the schools councils.
Okay, Rose?
No, I think my concern was more of, I mean, there's a certain type of person that will go on a council, as I know, that, you know, lots of people want to volunteer for their school council. I'm concerned about getting feedback to the unapproachable and the disaffected and how we take on their point of views as well.
Yeah, and that is referenced in the plans under the Torfaen Youth Alliance. I would say under the Youth Alliance that into that there are invitations for the Gypsy Traveller forums, for the Young Carers forums, for the LGBTQ groups to be involved as part of that alliance as well, so that they can continue to run their own forums, but there is an opportunity for them to raise their voice in there. The third tier that we plan, or the third phase we plan to implement, is looking at exactly that, really, that how do we involve the voice of all children, particularly the ones who are not inclined to join a forum or a youth council. How do we, how do we engage them on the topics that matter to them? So that is an ongoing piece of work that's included in the phases and those plans.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rose. That's a good question. Right. Any more questions around that engagement with young people? You seem to have done a heck of a lot of work in there. Thank you very much. We'll go on to objective 5, which is our last objective on there. I think I got it right, I haven't missed any. Which is, we'll start with, it says ensure that... Janet, sorry, I'm not missing you. My thing's got lag on it.
Yes, Chair.
Janet, come here, please.
When we're dealing with our young people, how are we going to access those with our disabilities and those with autism? Because as you know, I've dealt with some young people this year with autism, and how are we going to get what they feel their concerns should be taken into consideration as well, and how are we going to link up with those?
They're also included via various forums in our Torfaen Youth Alliance plan. We will continue to make it as inclusive as possible. If members are aware of any groups they would like us to engage and invite into that network, by all means, let us know. That we see that as an ever-growing group, and as people flag up different audiences for us, we'll try and make those groups as diverse as possible.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Janet. That's a good question. Right, next, we go on to the last section, which I did the preamble for. Ensure that Council complies with statutory equality and Welsh language duties. A is publish and reports on time after due internal consideration and scrutiny. This is what we're doing now. Any questions on Janet Jones? You come back again? So I'm not missing you. Or you haven't got your hand down? Thank you. No, you hadn't. Any questions on that one? No. Objective 5, action B. Embed the social economic duty into wellbeing impact assessments. Any on that question? Nope. Objective 5, action C. Ensure that sufficient consideration is consistently given to qualitative aspects within wellbeing impact assessments. And what it says there is that all work that we do has to be regarded in this measure. You see it at the bottom of the reports. Members to ask a question there? Nope. Right, no questions. Objective 5, action D. Slightly long one there. Qualities team to advise on practice clause, including evaluation that advance equality, which can be incorporated into procedural procurement exercises, and also monitor the compliance in conjunction with the relevant service managers managing the ongoing contracts following a procurement exercise. I'm going to ask a question about that, because that's a mouthful, but Can somebody guide me quite quickly, say what that's all about, please? Is there a procurement person around here?
So there isn't anyone specific from procurement, but was there something particular that you wanted to know about procurement duties?
Only, I mean, obviously, my other part of my scrutiny chairship is resources, and obviously, you're talking about equalities in procurement by the sound of it. It's not a thing we've looked at lately. We did do quite a bit of it sort of 8 years ago, and I'm just how you monitor that is quite fascinating to me personally, and you know how you ensure fairness. I'm trying to put it very succinctly. Dave?
Hi, happy to come in there, Chair, in terms of that one. Just to make you aware that a lot of work is underway at the minute looking at the entirety of our procurement approach and how we do things on procurement. And as part of that, we're looking at setting up a social value working group that will look at how we incorporate community benefits, of which equalities will be a part, into those procurement contracts. So there is work underway to look at designing that system, but it's still quite early days with it as of yet.
All I'm saying is that we haven't scrutinised that for a good long time. And so a little explanation and maybe back on that would be quite useful. We'll ask. Objective 5, Action E, assess the number of complaints that contain inequalities or Welsh language element. Didn't we? So you've already got that in your list. And the answer was not a lot. Good. Right, I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah. Peter?
Just a quick point. Sarah Tippin's name features heavily on this objective. Can we just put on record, I'm aware of all the work she's done behind the scenes in coordinating this report, and I know members have been saying how detailed it is. She couldn't be with us today, but I'd just like to acknowledge the work that she's put in on behalf of the Council. Thank you.
I'd like to quickly say, before I hand over to you and Stephen, I think we'll conclude this, so it says on my there, that you've obviously done an incredible amount of work, and obviously Sarah Tippin's had, but the fact that we haven't had a lot of questions here, admittedly some members are away, is not a reflection on what you've done. It's in fact the opposite. So I say it's an amazing amount of work. I say it's to Lyndon on a lot of things, but the amount of work that officers put into this, and we're well aware of that, it's obviously got to come back to council. And I think we obviously have come up with some recommendations and some observations, because it's obvious there's a lot of work here. And the fact they're not saying anything that much other than the usual suspect is because of the amount of work you put into it. And we've not done this before, so, you know, I think it's a reflection on your work, not the opposite. And who wants to go first? Peter? Kate, I'm looking at you, aren't I? Yeah.
Just to say, really, obviously there aren't all members on the call, but if there is something specific that members wanted to talk about in equality's nature, or cohesion, or, you know, anything that's kind of covered in this, obviously officers will be available to discuss that further. If there's anything that members felt they wanted a member seminar on, or any further information they wanted to explore things further, then please just, you know, contact the teams and we'll be happy to support.
That's brilliant, because you do give some really good seminars, and we've had those. So who wants to start, Peter or Stephen, on this one? Who wants to conclude? Yeah, and then Peter will give you that.
I don't have too much to say, Chair, other than to thank again everybody for their, giving up a couple of hours to look at this in depth. I think it's really appreciated for the opportunity to bring it to scrutiny, and for everybody to sort of take stock of where we are at this point. As we say, we've got another 2 years of this current plan. And before long, well before that 2 years is up, we'll be looking at the next 4-year plan and the sort of medium-term actions that are required really to continue this journey towards creating, an equitable tour vine for everybody that lives and works here. So yes, thanks again for your time, and I'll just pass over to Councillor Jones now to finish up. Thank you.
Yeah, and I haven't got much more to add to it. I mean, I think the Council are doing an excellent job on this agenda, and these reports will be coming forward, and I'm very grateful to all the members for the questions they've raised today, and obviously I'm very grateful for the officers for their giving up their time today to try to answer your questions very well, in my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. You now can... yes, it's still time to get away from all... No, thank you very much indeed for attendance. It's been brilliant. And, you know, we'll put some recommendations and some questions together and see what you say. But no, thank you. It's a very full report. And I said about the last one we've had on this session. So it follows, it's not, and if it's not, it's been relatively quiet, it's not because, you know, it's a good one. We expect that from you. Pardon me, members, bear with us while officers depart, and then we do a quick recommendations, and then we can all sign off. Right. Thank you, Kate. Lovely. It says, what she say? That bit, yeah. Agreeing recommendations. Thank you, members, for your questions and in-depth scrutiny of the strategic plan. Now, can I invite Rebecca to facilitate discussions and formulation of recommendations? Have we got everybody left here? You haven't gone yet, have you, Janet? And Nick, that's the two.
Thank you, members. So can I ask, do you have any recommendations based on your discussions this afternoon that you'd like to put forward?
Rebecca, I'd like to reiterate the Chair's thanks. It's an enormous document, and I think very well constructed. So I'd like to personally thank the officers for their report. I just wondered whether we didn't get to answer the question, was there any gaps? And I don't know that there is any gaps, because nothing was brought up apart from, you know, the odd question or two. So I think it's an excellent equality plan. And I don't know that there was there any recommendations that came out of it?
No, to be honest, Councillor Seaborn, I didn't note anything that I thought you'd particularly raised as a recommendation. So if I just draw you back to the scrutiny activity, it was for you to review the 2021 to 22 annual progress report on the Council's strategic equality plan, and then to consider the extent to which the Council has delivered on the strategic plan objectives during the year. Can I assume from the fact that there are very few recommendations coming forward that you are all satisfied with the extent to which it's been delivered on?
Yeah, the only query I would have had would have been the Welsh Commissioner's investigation into the Welsh language on the Torfaen Leisure Trust and those couple of things, and have they been rectified? I just wondered whether that had happened.
So that would be more of a question. So I'll note that down on the action sheet and get a response back for you now? Because obviously our officers have left the room. Is that okay?
Well, yeah, if they haven't, then, you know, what plan, the recommendation would be that we put some action into those 3 recommendations from the Welsh Language Commissioner.
Thing is, it's difficult now to put a recommendation
It
on
is,
something
yeah,
that you haven't
yeah.
got the information on. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I will get that information for you. And
Ja-
we can raise it next meeting then under the action sheet if you have any feedback on it at that point. Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
Janet? I can't hear you, muted.
I just think that the whole report was so thorough, and let's hope that we can continue to deliver on it and review it. As I said, I don't think there were many gaps in it, other than what Rosa said, and my question about, you know, inclusion of the youth people with the autistic spectrum and the disability spectrum for young people. Other than that, I thought it was very, very compact and very complete. And also the identification of the disabled curbs. I'm sure we will all pick up on that at some time, and we can go back to the relevant officers for discussion. But I don't think there was anything glaringly missed out of it. Do you?
I've noted that down as an action point as well, because Councillor Seaborn, you raised that as a question earlier in the meeting about the drop curve. So we will get that information back to you. Sorry.
The bit on mapping drop curves is a point I've made time and time again in other committees. The other point about it is linkage of that stuff. We did sort of skip over the one on stuff that's come up in other fora. We didn't really need to make a comment on it, but you know, things like homelessness and town hubs and all the rest of it. I mean, that point was made very eloquently the other day by David Daniels, and I'm not going to object to that. We know the problem we got with housing, we know the problems we got with the rest of it. I think it's been a very good report, to be honest. That's why we can't. It's not about criticising or finding holes in it. It's what we can do if we had the resources, and I think that's a lot of what we've got in here. And I think we commend it as much as anything. Would you agree with that? Rose, hands up again. Is there anything else anybody wants to raise?
No, I think you've covered it mostly, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. I know there's not that, you know, a lot of people are away, but I think you've done a good job there in the circumstances. You know, it's right.
I thought we were going through the meeting without any questions at all at one point.
No, I've been working you a little bit as much as I could.
Too, Rose. I thought it was quite quiet, but the answers have been answered really well, haven't they? You know what I mean? It's been really comprehensive. They've done a good report, and it's very difficult to criticise or make improvements when it was already there in the first place.
Yeah,
very difficult to.
A lot of the delays due to COVID, you know, in the next updated report, I'm hoping to see some of the things come forward there, the bullying issue sort of.
Yes, yeah.
They've set up the working group, so it's whether or not we see improvements in the next report really, but most of it's been actioned within the report, and it's just looking forward to the next update.
Yeah, and I also think that there's going to be a massive change now in wellbeing and diversity because of the change of the environment that we all live in now. So, you know what I mean? There's going to be lots of changes in the next 6 months. It's just going to affect lots of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to change massively in the way that we all act and the way our well-being and everything else around it.
I do agree with Linda that it'll be the next report that we'll be able to really dig deeper into, because we'll have issues that will be brought up in the next couple of months and see how we're dealing with those.
Yeah, the COVID delays have impacted significantly, haven't they?
Yes.
Thanks, Steph. I think what you're saying is a baseline to start this off, because we've never done it before. Thank you very much. And the silence was not because we weren't thinking about it. I've had one meeting before where it didn't go. This is actually a positive meeting. Thank you, guys. Right, what I'm going to...
Thanks, Chair.
Rebecca's got enough here to work on, so have a respond to what she sends to you. Part 4 is date and time of next meeting. This is coming pretty quickly, so note it in your diaries. The date of the next cross-cutting resources meeting, business meeting, will be Tuesday, the 8th of November, and will be the first of 2 meetings looking at budget setting process. That's an excitement. We had one of these. This is the one we all enjoy, don't we? Bearing in mind the current circumstances as well, which is going to be quite entertaining.
Forewarned, just forearm, Chair.
Right, then I've got the close to the meeting. I can thank members and officers for attending and contributing to the meeting. Now I close the meeting. There you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.